to go with this webinar on appreciative inquiry and coaching, and also becoming a thinking partner. And we started with the question. If you want to share the question you asked, Cees, because it didn't get recorded. We started with the question.
Yeah, that was, of course, to bridge the time and to connect. And it was about the intention, what moves you, that is more in general, what drives you, or what drove you here. And there were already some beautiful answers that gave some energy to this conversation.
Fantastic, fantastic. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about what is appreciative inquiry, a little bit about how to apply it in coaching, and a little bit about becoming a thinking partner of leaders in organizations. And we are also open to questions and to have a dialogue. The idea is that this webinar is going to be total maximum 1 hour. It depends on the dialogue that we have with all of you. First, we're going to do a small presentation so that you can have a view of the different aspects. One of them is, I'm going to start with appreciative inquiry. And I've been applying appreciative inquiry for already a long time. And appreciative inquiry is a method that is applied mainly in big organizations and also in small organizations, but as a group process. And what we are doing here is applying it into accompanying people. And so that is a novelty. And through the practice of appreciative inquiry and accompanying many people, I've created the method of flourishing together. And that is applying appreciative inquiry into coaching. We say coaching because it's the word that has become more well-known, but it's actually accompanying people. And so the appreciative inquiry is based on certain principles, and it's based on a methodology that focuses on what we want more of instead of what we want less of, in asking powerful questions and questions that enlarge, enhance the best of people and in people. And also it's a methodology that discovers the best practices and the strengths. It's a strengths-based methodology that helps change and transform on the basis of strengths and on the basis of creating compelling images that attract you to the future you want to create. What else would you say about appreciative inquiry, Cees?
It's nice that you started like this, because if you go on Google, then you start with this large-scale process, and now you go into appreciative inquiry applied between two people in a conversation. And for me, the definition can even be stretched that you could call it simple or profound. That it's actually two practices: to appreciate and to inquire. And what do we mean by that? Is that to appreciate is actually the act of dignity of seeing the other person as who he or she is. That is neutral. It's non-judging. Seeing the other in maybe towards the namaste idea of in all her or his potential. That is to appreciate. And that creates a whole world of space between you and the other, of actually that there's nothing needed to do, just to see that there's somebody else in front of you. And that is the ultimate starting point for the other practice, to inquire. Okay, you are who you are, we are who we are. And so what could we do now? What are the possibilities? So for me, appreciative inquiry is actually two practices that are joined together.
Yeah. Yes. And it's also a practice that connects with what gives meaning, what gives life, and what makes people flourish. And so if someone has a problem, instead of asking the reason of the problem and going into the depth of the problem, let's go into the depth of strengths of that person. Which are the strengths that will help that person move on? And where does that person want to be? It's like awaken the wish to live more, to live more wholly, more intensely, and that compelling image together with the strengths will help the person overcome whatever situation the person is going through. So in appreciative inquiry coaching, what we do is, first of all, connect the person with their positive core. The positive core, it's like the essence of what gives life to a system and to a person. And many times when a person is having a problem or feeling in a crossroads, it's because they have disconnected from their positive core. And the positive core is what makes human beings thrive. How else would you describe the positive core of a person, Cees?
Oh, yeah. I mentioned already the word namaste. This beautiful greeting, or which has the meaning of the light or the divine in me sees the divine in you. It seems to be something beyond the ego. So it's something in me sees something in you, and that what you see is actually potential. So for me, a positive core is, of course, that life-giving immaterial force, which you actually not just are having in your body, but which is a relational process between two people, which makes me, as an appreciative inquiry practitioner, capable of maybe enlarging or increasing your potential. And that is exactly, I think, the strengthening part of the conversation. I would even add that it also has to do with the art of language, with how you use words. You, Miriam, you mentioned already a few times the word problem, which in itself has the potential of creating a situation into a problem. We may not be aware so much about that, but actually from an appreciative inquiry point of view, a problem, first of all, is a situation. And it can be negative, it can be frightening, it can be, risky, and it could end up in a problem. But by calling it a problem too soon, it may be a bigger problem than it actually is. And this is, I think, one of the statements, isn't it, of appreciative inquiry? Everything you give attention to grows. So let's give attention to positive core.
Yes. So as a person and as a coach, I accompany others from my positive core. Then I will have clarity, strength. I will be alive. I will be creative, because I will be connected with the best in me. And then in the first steps of a coaching process of accompanying a person, we help the other through questions connect with their positive core. what gives you life when you are most alive? What gives you, makes you thrive when you are thriving? And how is it when you are the best of yourself? And then when the person connects with their positive core, with what gives life to them, from there we start, or we continue the coaching process, because it's very different to start talking about the situation from a space of depression or negativity or hopelessness or heaviness or stress, or turning it around and looking at that situation from my positive core. So this would be the first session, or the first sessions in a process of appreciative inquiry coaching, is to connect with the positive core of the person. And then we go into discovery. Whilst I'm sharing this, after I share the process of the coaching sessions, we're going to show you a model of being a thinking partner, which is like a step deeper in the process of accompanying especially leaders. But Case, I only have it in Spanish here, so maybe you have access to the English version of our diagram. Otherwise, we're going to show it in Spanish and share it by word.
I have the English version standby here.
Okay, so then once the person is connected with the positive core, then we're going to discover the best practices, the strengths, when situations, or when the person has lived those situations in the best way. What has helped that person overcome their situations, or their moving forward, what has helped them. And so we connect the person with their strengths, with the possibilities, and we define the topic of the appreciative inquiry process of coaching by defining what does the person want, not what does the person don't want. For example, I had a coaching client, she's a singer, and she was saying, I don't want to feel so much stress when I sing. I don't want to feel tight. I feel ugly when I sing. I don't want to feel like that. So these are all negative statements, what you don't want to see, what you want to see less of. I want to see less of myself as a stressed person, as an ugly person. And so we turn it around. What is it that you want to see more of? And so we focus the coaching sessions on what is it that the person wants to see more of. And then we move into discovery, what will help that person achieve that in terms of what has helped in the past. So, you know, if you have to take a big jump you move backwards, you run, and then you jump. So this discovery phase is like moving backwards to get energy to move forwards and jump farther ahead. And this jumping farther ahead is the dream phase, in which we accompany the person in dreaming the ideal of what they want, in creating compelling images that will help that person move forward. And then we design provocative proposals that will help the person put in practice and walk towards their dream, to make their dream come true. A difference between appreciative inquiry coaching and other coaching processes is that in other coaching processes, they talk about the desired future. So I'm here in the present and I talk what I desire of the future. But in appreciative inquiry coaching, we guide the person through a visualization, a meditation practice, that it's like a visualization really, to be in that future, and how is it to experience it, to be it. For example, I had a coaching client, she's from Mexico, and she got pregnant with a Catalan man, Catalonia, Barcelona. That's where I am communicating with all of you now, from Barcelona, in Spain, in Catalonia. It's a region. So she felt that here she couldn't get the job she wanted, which was to give workshops and to share with people. And in Mexico, she had many people coming to her workshops, but here no one was coming to her workshops. So she didn't know whether to stay here or to go back to Mexico. She was in her 4th, 5th month of being pregnant. And her, I don't know if it was her companion or her boyfriend or her husband, he was willing to go to Mexico and try a new life there. But she was hesitant. So in the dream phase, when she went into the future, she saw herself completely in a different situation. He saw herself writing and being more doing things at home, having more than one child, and not giving lectures and workshops, but writing her experience. And so this dream gave her the clarity that she was having stress because she was desiring something that actually was not what deeply in her soul she wanted. And sometimes we have desires, but that's why I say that's very different to talk what is your desired future, or let's walk into the future, let's fly into the future, and once you are there, see yourself there and what is happening. And that can give you a wider perspective. And once we see that, then we can create provocative proposals to go from where we are to make our dream come true, and then go into commitments. And so the commitments are not action plans. And are not action plans in terms of doing things only, but the commitments are to keep connected to the positive core, to the soul of the person, so that whatever I do it from that space of abundance. And so we have an appreciative inquiry coaching training online, which is for people that already have experience in accompanying people. It's certified by the ICF, International Coach Federation, but it gives core competencies points. It's not to become a coach, it's to apply appreciative inquiry in your profession of accompanying others. And I will write in the chat if you want more information, because now we're gonna share with you on appreciative inquiry and thinking partner, becoming a thinking partner. And then we will open to questions or to dialogue. And so the Instituto IDEA mainly works in Spanish-speaking countries, but we also have activities in English-speaking and Dutch-speaking and other languages. And so appreciative inquiry coaching is a training that I will write in the chat, but maybe I should show I should show the page so that you can see it has a lot of different contents like appreciative coaching certification, an innovative approach to accompanying people. And then it's about the fundamentals of appreciative inquiry, the power of image and positive psychology. It has a positive image, positive action, the relational system, dreams, design, practices, the art of powerful questions, the power of our presence, relational mindfulness, the differences between coaching and appreciative inquiry coaching. So you are welcome to discover more, and you have our mail, so you can also ask questions about it. And the training, it's really to see how can I be more appreciative and life-giving in my sessions of accompanying others, and how can I connect them with their positive core. And once giving this training and accompanying many people and many leaders, with Cees, we saw that there's another level of accompanying leaders, which would be to become a thinking partner. And a thinking partner, what would you say, Cees, it's a difference between a consultant and a thinking partner?
Well, first of all, I would say if there are some questions that have been coming up in your heads about this first part, a brief introduction to appreciative inquiry, you could also mention them in the chat already to not forget them. I put a very short summary of what you told Miriam about the 4Ds. But I have to tell you that I'm practicing for more than 20 years appreciative inquiry, and I always tell my students, come back in another 20 years, because then I will be really good at it. I consider this a daily practice, and maybe the real invitation is, can you apply appreciative inquiry to yourself before you apply it to others? And then I mean, again, to appreciate and to inquire. But just to move on to that other level you are suggesting, maybe the difference is the context, which I would say the organizational context of a professional person, a manager, a leader, an internal consultant, who is being a member of a big system, what we call an organization. And from pure appreciative inquiry, we would say we inquire into your strengths, your experiences, and we move on from there. But when we go speaking to a person, trying to accompany that person, knowing that that person is also a member of a system that is much bigger than him or herself, that is what our approach is to being a thinking partner. Of course, like the word coach has so many different definitions and so many different manifestations, I guess also that means it is the case for thinking partner. So I'm talking about our interpretation of it, which is positioned in your coachee, the one you accompany, in the context of his or her organization. And then it comes to a different question. Can that person know enough about this unpredictable, volatile, emergent organization around him or her? And can we actually, we as a thinking partner with organizational experience, can we also add our knowledge, our experience of organizations in that conversation? Of course, as an external, we still don't know more or better the context of the person we are accompanying. That must be sure. But we may bring in some real organizational experience, expertise that could help to to enrich that context, because we don't know what we don't know. And so for us, we see the role as a thinking partner in this context as bringing in, where possible, expertise about organization and organizational context. And that makes it speaking of a course or training, then this has a lot of organizational context and tools and methods and approaches to enrich your own repertoire of a thinking partner, to enrich the repertoire of the other. So there is some potential of teaching in there, but only that what is necessary. It's I think we should show that one slide of what we are using when we try to explain. Shall I share it?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
If I have the option, yes, share screen. Where is it? Hold yourself. This is a complicated picture you are looking at the moment.
So if you want, I can.
You start. But
yeah, I share the blue part.
Give them a break. Give them a break. Give them a break, because there's a lot to see here.
Yeah. So let's see. Me, that's you as a thinking partner. The circle at the left, and then the other is the person you accompany. So me as a thinking partner, what tools do I have? Yeah, okay. The questions I ask. And so we share 7 levels of inquiry repertoire. Not only appreciative inquiry, but humble inquiry, provocative inquiry, relational inquiry. So there's different levels of inquiry, which have different kinds of questions. And the questions are always to support the inquiry, to awaken and enlarge the vision that the other has of their case. You see, in the center is the other, and then there is the case, the situation, what they want to talk about. And then there are the level of listening, different levels of listening. And we do practices in our training to be and become a thinking partner of the different levels of listening, but not only you as a person that accompanies the other, but to help the other to be able to listen better, to listen to themselves and to listen to others, because that is one of the challenges of many leaders. They think they know, and then they don't listen to others, and they listen superficially. So how can, as a thinking partner, I can accompany the others so that they see the case from the perspective of listening from a wider angle. And then the third asset is appreciation, which is under listening. So appreciation, how do the person that is in front of me appreciate what gives life to them? How do they give life to others? How do they give meaning and trust to others? And in essence, what is to be appreciated in their professional life and in their personal life, it can be also, but in their professional life, so that they put on the glasses of appreciation instead of complaining and blaming. Because the eyes of appreciation allows us to see from a much wider perspective the beauty of what is happening, the best practices of what is happening. So the art of appreciate. And then the fifth aspect, it's not that it's first, second, third, so they are all together. Right? The fifth aspect is about the relation. So not only focus in what is the case, but what are the relations that are around the case, and how do I care about the relationships? Because many times the case is the case because we don't take care of the relationships. And so appreciative inquiry is very much based in relational being. I don't know if you've read the book Relational Being from Kenneth Gergen. He's one of the inspirers of appreciative inquiry. And so we are relational beings, and how do we focus in our relationships determines a lot how we live the case. Now, the role of the thinking partner, we have it at the bottom left, is to help others change, adjust, or improve her thinking or his thinking in such a way that he or she is able to handle a certain problem and to transcend to a different thinking level. And so far, you may think, okay, so to become a thinking partner is to have a set of tools which are listed in this blue part, but it's a lot more complex and complicated. And Cees is gonna share the other part of this diagram. And just, this is like the basis, the diagram that we use to build on to accompany people to go from being a coach to be a thinking partner.
Thank you. Yeah. I see a question in the chat. You may answer. Who wrote the book Relational Being? You should answer that question, Kenneth Gergen, in the chat. The complexity when you step into an organization is a little bit different than just from being, let's say, the consultant and the client, or the coach and the coachee, because if I just would ask you, think of organization as you know it or as you experience it, and think of an image that represents for you organization. And actually in real time, I would ask you to take a piece of paper and a pencil and to draw that image. And you might end up in drawing an arrow or a pyramid or an org chart or a cloud or a person or anything. And actually that is what this 40 people in the room here, you would all have a different image. Now the first thing is that if I come in as the thinking partner, I have an image too of an organization. Personally, when I'm from the humanizing part, I see organizations as more organic, learning, always as a process character. Maybe the other person is more like an org chart or a power, position, task and role person. And what we have to find out is to be aware of that if we both look at that bigger organization, that we look at it from our own frame. And now my challenge is to be aware of my frame. I'm looking at it, and actually I need, from my experience, I need to be aware that there are multiple frames I can look at organization, then to find out from which frame the other is looking at his or her organization, he or she is in, and that a learning and development process ignites between us, where we see the possibility of looking at that organization from different frames. This is actually what Einstein always told when he said we can only solve problems from another level than we created it. And you must be aware that if you're speaking to a leader or senior manager or HR director, that person may be part of what has been created there and doesn't see it from a different way. I'm not telling that this is an easy process, because it takes my awareness and actually maybe sharing everything I have, try to transfer it to the other. This is in general already the challenge. How do we look at not ourselves, but how do we look at the way we look? And then we made it relatively simple, that there are 4 dimensions, 4 areas of experiencing organizational development, that we really, as a bodies of knowledge, but also as bodies of practice, that we include in that process, the process actually of becoming a better thinking partner. We are all somewhere in that process, and applying this directly to the other. That's why if you go in such a course, you always need a client, and then we are somewhere here as the thinking partner of the thinking partner, trying to get a thinking partner into next level. Okay, this may seem funny, or it may seem very strange language, but it's actually these multiple levels that you're constantly switching between your level, the way you look at your looking, the other's level. That is very crucial when you start to find out next steps in, okay, if we look, for example, like values in organizations or value systems, then first we look at, okay, you may use this as an approach to watch, to observe, to assess organization around you. But first of all, you need to assess yourself in what values are resonating more than others, because this affects your seeing already. And I have to be aware again of my value system before I go into inviting the other. I'll just put you one link, what I'm talking about. You can go to clmirror.org, and it's a tool we use from the image of being a connective leader, for getting a clue.
There are some questions, Cees,
About your value system. Okay.
Yes. One
wait.
question. Okay, we wait. Yeah.
Wait. Let me just read.
Okay.
Because I see. Okay. Let me just finish, and let's go into the question, because finishing is of course not the word here, because starting up, but just to get an idea of what domains, bodies of knowledge, bodies of practice, so like value systems, or like understanding levels of complexity. There's such things as simple, there's complicated, there's complex, there's chaos, and handle this and acknowledge this, recognize. There's really to envision organization as something different from a pyramid or an org chart or a power system. And there's also understanding levels of mental maturity, not only of the psychological maturity of individuals, but also of the organization as a whole. These are the bodies we take as knowledge, as a practice into this process. So that makes this chart complete. And I would say, Miriam, move into questions so far.
Yeah, well, no, there's a question for you as a thinking partner. Well,
okay.
For us, as a thinking partner from Luhain, sorry if I don't pronounce well your name, Luhain. As a thinking partner, we work on the way of thinking of the partner. Is it similar to cognitive behavioral coaching?
Of course, then I should first ask, what exactly is cognitive behavioral coaching? So the fact that I can't give that answer yet, I can't really give a good answer. I think if cognitive is a keyword in that, it's about thinking. And maybe we, as I think now, we may be using the wrong word in calling such a person a thinking partner, because I think what I showed here, it's mainly about seeing, observing, getting aware, which goes far beyond only that process we call thinking. So that's interesting. Thank you for this question, because in the future we may need to call it a seeing partner, but then it doesn't work anymore. So okay, I think it's about seeing.
Yes, I think it's about seeing and about present seeing. And someone
Absolutely.
saying a mindful partner. Yeah, it's about seeing, about present seeing, about listening. So it's true that the word thinking is not so accurate.
It is seeing in such a way that actually the system starts to change because of the way you're seeing it. If we go into the 4 levels of listening, the 4th level is generative listening. It's such a way of listening that actually people and systems start to change because of this specific way of listening. So thank you for bringing this in. It is much more than cognitive.
Yeah, it's a lot more. Yeah. I've just put the link to the contents of all what we are sharing in the
Yeah.
chat. And we go to another question, which is appreciative inquiry a part of positive psychology? Well, if we would ask this question to David Cooper Ryder, he would turn it around and he would say, well, positive psychology started inspired by appreciative inquiry. Barbara Fredrickson, one of the persons that took positive psychology took it forward. She's very much into also appreciative inquiry. So yes, they are very much related. And appreciative, when you describe about the visualization technique, it sounds similar to visualization in NLP. Yes, many people have told me whether I have learned NLP, and actually I haven't learned NLP, but then I searched a little bit, and there are many connecting dots between appreciative inquiry and NLP. There are similar things, and there are similar things. So, but it's not a conscious connection. I think when NLP emerged, appreciative inquiry emerged, and it emerged in different contexts in the same country, actually, in the United States, and it has several points in common. And then about appreciative inquiry principles. So it makes
maybe to add to NLP, I once had a few NLP practitioners as AI students. So we made it a challenge to find out what are differences and similarities and differences. We also find a big, at that point, and from their point of view, that NLP is like, it's of course a quality of the NLP practitioner, and you apply it to assess and observe the other person and help from there. It seems similar, but I think the intention of appreciative inquiry is completely from out the other person. It starts with the other. It's strengthening. The intention is to strengthen the other in what there is. So I'm actually, without any judging, and as far as I understood from my NLP students, there's also technique in this to recognize some elements, some qualities in the other. We don't do in appreciative inquiry because we take the other as you are from the appreciative, and then we start to inquire, which is again different from thinking partner, because then we bring in the organizational context, and then again we add something. So maybe this is also a difference between AI and NLP practitioner.
Yes. And someone says that as a mindfulness coach, this is pretty much what you do. I don't know if you mean about appreciative inquiry coaching or about thinking partner, what you do. But in appreciative inquiry coaching, yes, it's a mindful process, but there is like a process of going to defining what is it that we want to focus on the language of abundance. What do we want instead of what we want less of, what we want more of? Connect with the positive core of the person, discover the strengths, the good practices when I have achieved something, what helped me to achieve it, and then take this leap into the future, do this visualization in which the person can really think out of the box, because this is the thing, to think out of the box and to see out of the box. And then from that future that I am seeing, looking backwards, what did I do to reach there? And so the answers that come are really, really awakening answers for the person that is living that process.
Mm.
And
I see
it's,
another question about the following the 4Ds in order. And I would say, yes, it's crucial. Maybe there's psychology behind it, but if there's a set of questions which is always a question that comes up in your heart by seeing in the eyes of the other. So there's no book of standard questions, but these questions are either discovery questions or dream questions or design questions. And yes, it needs that order because the discovery helps the discovery into what gives life helps also to increase the trust. And if you ask a person just on the spot, oh, what do you dream of? What is your best idea? Then it's like brainstorming without a warming up, and you can break a leg. So the discovery is needed to create a situation of trust in which dreaming actually can happen. And if you go into the action directly, what was the best thing you do? Yeah, you get the things they already thought of, but only from dreaming the impossible, it can create new possible actions. And so, yes, these 4Ds have a sequence, a strict sequence. And as a practitioner, I don't think of a set of questions. So we actually don't have an interview script, but we are aware that we are using a certain type of question in a certain phase of the conversation.
yes, and
And that
we
is
have like,
crucial.
yes, we have like the basics of how does the question look like. And we do many practices when we train people so that they learn to create those questions. And yes, as Lurheim says, it goes in cycles because when the person dreams and then they think, what are the topics I need to work on to reach that dream? And then when we work on the topics, maybe in those topics, maybe we need to go back to discovery strengths that would help me move on with those topics. So yes, we can go in cycles. It's like a spiral. It's not a linear process. It's like a spiral.
Yeah, and Luhan, it's actually also quite easy to be present because the beautiful thing of asking questions is that the moment you ask the question, it's the other's turn. So then you are listening, observing, and from the feedback, you can know that this question was too early, so I need to go back to another question. So the presence is coming from this, the cycling of your conversation. It's coming back from the mirroring of your coachee once you're there. Can using AI and becoming a thinking partner possible for coaching with individuals, but not in context of specific organizations? I think the body and the practices of knowledge of what we bring in as a thinking partner are really relevant, of course, in the context of organization. I think individuals are always in organizations, a family system or a neighborhood, but this is really, of course, about organizations as we know them, companies, institutions. So using AI possible for coaching with individuals? Yes, of course, referred to Miriam. Uh, Elements of the thinking partner, yes, but if organizations are not actually involved, then it's maybe too much to study and not so relevant at the moment.
Yeah, so I think the appreciative inquiry coaching is very relevant for the individual themselves. It really helps them see and take steps forward. And thinking partner, as Cees say, maybe you can use a few of the tools, but it's more relevant when the person is in an organization.
Thank you for asking.
Yes, thank you
Savita.
for this active asking. So what I find is that appreciative inquiry coaching, really you need very few sessions to have the person already flying in their lives, because it's very, very powerful. And I've had clients that come from other coaches and that say, well, you know, I had a very long process of 10 sessions, 20 sessions, and we were looking more and more into the problem, and they want something more fresh that really connects with what gives them life. And so I think that mindfulness, as someone was saying, as a mindful coach, I think it's fantastic. All of us should be more mindful. Actually, one of the trainings I give is relational mindfulness, and I've wrote about it both in English and in Spanish. My book in Spanish on relational mindfulness is coming out soon, in a couple of weeks. And so, yes, mindfulness, it's very good for all of us. And what I find that appreciative inquiry does, it takes a step farther into really connecting the person with their own strengths and with the strengths of the system. So I don't know if there are more questions, otherwise we can stop recording and we can...
I just leave my website where you also can send messages or whatever. And that the questioning never stops. I think one of the appreciative inquiry questions after having done an activity for me would always be to ask all the members, what did you appreciate the most? And it's a completely different question from what did you think of it? How was it? No, what did you appreciate the most? It's a very pointy, sharp, directive question. And maybe you would like to take up the talking stick again and use your voice and share that only one thing that you appreciated the most of this very short tour, or put it in the chat. But it's always good to have some voices again in the room other than ours. For me, I will shut up and thank you very much for being here. What did you appreciate the most?
Yeah, I'm gonna stop the Facebook sharing. The link is not accessible, someone says. Which link?